What if I told you that right now, thousands of computers around the world are in a race, competing every single second to win free Bitcoin? No, it's not a video game. It's called Bitcoin mining, and it's one of the most misunderstood concepts in all of crypto. Today, we're going to break it down so simply that even your grandma could get it. When most people hear Bitcoin mining, they picture someone digitally digging underground for coins, kind of like panning for gold. But the reality? It looks a lot more like this. Rows and rows of specialized computers humming away 24/7, doing something that sounds a lot more like gambling than digging. Let me explain. First, a quick refresher on how Bitcoin works, because mining fits right in the middle of it. Bitcoin runs on a blockchain, a public shared ledger of every transaction ever made. This ledger isn't stored in one place. It's spread across thousands of computers around the world. No banks, no middlemen. When you send Bitcoin to someone, that transaction doesn't get recorded instantly. Instead, it gets bundled together with other pending transactions into a group called a block. And before that block can be added to the blockchain permanently, it needs to be validated. That's where miners come in. Miners are special computers on the Bitcoin network with one job: to earn the right to add the next block. And here's where it gets interesting. They don't earn that right through skill or knowledge. They earn it through a lottery. Here's how it works. Every block has a block header. Think of it like a summary page. It contains things like a timestamp, a reference to the previous block, and a special slot for a random number called a nonce. Miners take this block header and run it through something called a cryptographic hash function. This is just a fancy math formula that takes any input and spits out a string of letters and numbers, called a hash, that's always the same fixed length. Here's the key thing about hashes. They're completely unpredictable. Change even one tiny thing in your input, say the nonce, and your output hash changes entirely. There's no shortcut, no way to reverse engineer the right answer. So what do miners do? They guess, over and over again. But they're not guessing randomly without a goal. The Bitcoin network sets a target hash, and miners need to find a valid nonce that produces a winning hash, equal to or lower than that target. Think of it like this. Imagine rolling a 1,000-sided die, but you only win if you roll under 10. The odds are brutal. Most rolls lose, but eventually, someone rolls it. The first miner to find a valid nonce that produces a winning hash gets to add the block to the blockchain and earns a Bitcoin reward for doing so. Right now, that reward is 3.125 Bitcoin per block, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Then the game resets, and every miner starts guessing all over again. You might be wondering, how hard can guessing really be? The Bitcoin network currently runs at over 500 exahashes per second. That means miners are making over 500 quintillion guesses every single second. That's a 5 followed by 20 zeros. To put that in perspective, that's more calculations per second than there are grains of sand on every beach on Earth combined, several times over. This is why mining requires massive amounts of specialized hardware and electricity. Now, here's a brilliant piece of Bitcoin's design: the difficulty adjustment. Every 2 weeks, the Bitcoin network automatically checks how fast are blocks being mined. If miners are finding blocks too quickly because more miners joined or computers got faster, the target hash gets harder to hit. If miners are leaving and blocks are taking too long, the target gets easier. The goal is simple: keep new blocks coming in at a steady pace of roughly 1 every 10 minutes. Always, no matter how much computing power is on the network. This keeps the entire system predictable and stable. Okay, so mining is essentially a giant guessing game. But why? Why not just let anyone add blocks for free? Because that would be a disaster. This mechanism is called proof of work, and it's Bitcoin's secret weapon for security. To add a fraudulent block, say to fake a transaction or double spend Bitcoin, an attacker would need to outguess the entire rest of the network. They'd need more than 50% of the world's mining power working for them. That would cost billions of dollars in hardware and electricity. And even if they tried, the network would reject their chain. So every block that gets mined is essentially proof that real work, real energy, and real money was spent to create it. That's what makes tampering with the blockchain so astronomically expensive that it's practically impossible. One more important point: mining is also how new Bitcoin comes into existence. Remember that block reward? That Bitcoin didn't exist before the miner found that winning hash. It was created fresh, right then and there, and sent to the winning miner's wallet. This is Bitcoin's version of a central bank printing money, except it's completely transparent, predictable, and hard-capped. Only 21 million Bitcoin will ever exist. The block reward gets cut in half roughly every 4 years in an event called the halving, slowing down the creation of new coins until the last one is mined around the year 2140.